presents to you Honest Talk.
Hello folks, today Dr. Mayank Mohan Agarwal is joining us. Dr. Mayank is now Associate Director of Urology and Kidney Transplant, Medanta Hospital. He pursued his medical qualifications MBBS from Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi, DNB General Surgery, National Board of Examination, New Delhi, MS General Surgery, Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi, MRCS General Surgery, Royal Challenge of Surgeons, Edinburgh, DNB Urology, National Board of Examinations, New Delhi, MCH Urology, Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education Research, Chandigarh. Dr. Mayank established advanced urological laparoscopy, including uro-oncology, urogynecology, pelvic floor dysfunctions, and urodynamics in PGI-MER, Chandigarh, NMC Specialty Hospital, Abu Dhabi, and Aster Ramesh Hospital, Guntur. Dr. Mayank discovered, developed, and validated novel concepts in urodynamics through 2006 to 2019. Dr. Mayank brings along post-MCH experience of over 14 years in uro-oncology, urogynecology, pelvic floor dysfunctions, advanced urolaparoscopy, and laser surgery. After initial training and masterate in surgery from PGI Premier Institute, Chandigarh, Dr. Mayank refined his skills through international awarded fellowships in USA, MSKCC, NY, UCLA, LA, WFU, BMC, NC. Pursuing his passion for patient care and education, he established the above clinical services, mentored colleagues, students, nurses, and continued academic research at his places of work through 2005 to 2019. So let's begin our talk with Dr. Mayank Mohan Agarwal.
So first of all, thank you so much, sir, for joining us and agreeing to share your thoughts on our platform.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
So, sir, as we have seen these days, the condition is becoming more worse and worse. But you doctors are still on your duty and performing so well. So, sir, I would like to know what is the thing that motivates you. So, tell that mantra to us also, so we could start this session with that same high energy.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So, when there is a medical problem, obviously the medical personnel are going to be on a forefront. So it's the same way as there is a there is a natural disaster in the form of, let's say, earthquake, or let's say tsunami was there. So then you have multiple type of forces coming into picture, right? Including the medical force, engineers, and all sorts of people coming into picture. So it's nothing. I don't see it as something great on the part of doctors. It is our area, and that's why we are on the forefront. So in doctors also, there are two types of forces. One, who are dealing with COVID. I think they're at the highest risk, but they are doing it, and I salute them. And the second is like us, who are dealing with other patients apart from COVID. Because of COVID, there are people of cancer or other ailments which need timely attention, and they're not getting it. So we are dealing with those kind of patients. So yes, nothing great. We are doing our job because this is a situation which is demanding medical this thing. So somewhere, if you have any software issues, suppose the world Google crashes or something is happening, then you guys will be on the forefront. So same way we are working. That's all.
Great, sir.
Every job is important, and so is yours, so is mine. That's it.
Great, sir. So moving to the topic of today's discussion, which we have chosen is the future of healthcare. Which is already a question in itself. So, sir, I would like to know what you think, what it will be.
Okay, so let us see in the COVID perspective. That's the most practical thing we are going to discuss it with. So just imagine a scenario a few years back, or maybe a few decades back. You have cough and cold and fever, okay? Or if you have any other abdominal pain, or if you have small problems like fever, what do you have to take a car or taxi, physically go to the hospital, you wait in the queue, one will your blood pressure, BP, then you reach the doctor in the queue. Then as per your turn, you will be seen by the doctor, some investigations will be written, then you will go to the queue of pharmacy, then of the labs, then you go to the queue of radiology, then you go to the queue of pharmacy, and then you come back to doctor again in the queue, and then ultimately you will be seen appropriately. Now, obviously, this is not the right thing, okay? Because for your ailment, you are having to wait for a long time because of lack of automation and because of the demand supply gap, right? You don't have enough healthcare personnel, you don't have enough hospitals, you don't have enough hospital beds. So that is why you have to wait. Now, this is not the right thing to do, because more so in the current scenario, because now the patient is a consumer. Patient is a passive term. He's the needy, comes to hospital, gets treated. Consumer is consuming the services. He has his rights, and so if you go to any big hospital, you just see there are signboards writing patients' rights and responsibilities. So there are rights of the patients. That's what makes him or a consumer. Now, in the future, this cannot happen because this gap is going to widen. The number of doctors are going to become less. The nurses are going to become less compared to the load they are getting because of these kind of epidemics, because of non-communicable diseases also, cancers, old age, everything is going to increase. So we have to automate. So the future hospital is going to be a automated system in which things which can be done by machines will be done by machines, things which need only human touch will be done by humans. For example, let's say, the first question, do I need to go to hospital? Maybe not. If you have a very good telepresence system, small things can be tackled from home. Like I'm talking to you right now through this web portal. So same, these things will be sorted like that. So you have a queue of patients who have not come to the hospital. So that means if they have not come to the hospital, you don't need to have an infrastructure to have parking for so many people, waiting lounge for so many people, energy requirement for so many people. A doctor is sitting in his chamber, in his or her chamber, and then one patient comes face to face like this. It is going to be high resolution exchange of views. So a lot of things can be tackled like that. Now, if you have to come to hospital, things will be automated. In the Western world, anyway, a lot of things are being automated, right from parking to entering the hospital to waiting. Waiting is not like you come in the hospital in the morning, your turn will come at 12 o'clock. You come as per your appointment. You make an appointment online. So you come to the hospital as per your appointment. If there is any change in schedule, you are automatically told about your rescheduling of your or whatever. When you come to the hospital, you don't need, there won't be a nurse because there are dearth of nurses. It is not like education of nurses. It is about gaining experience. That takes time. So you employ a computer. You just employ a computer which will do a multitasking. Take your vitals, take blood pressure, weight, your body mass index, your body image and everything. Maybe your history also will be taken by a robotic computer in which you feed your data. These are run. I'm just talking about will be. So I'm just telling you in the form of an imagination. So till now you have not come in contact with a human. You're coming in contact with robot and artificial intelligence. So that you will feed all the data in artificial and it will give you some outline. Based on that, you will be assigned to a doctor who is expert in that field. Then with all that data, then you visit the doctor. The doctor already has a lot of information about you, and the AI has already helped him or her in making a decision or giving a good diagnosis. It has already been proven that circumstances the AI can detect more sensitively and more specifically some disease like diabetic retinopathy. In the Western world, they're already using it. Diabetic retinopathy, I should tell in more simple words. Because of diabetes, there are effect on eyesight. The eyesight effect by diabetes, its detection is very accurate by using artificial intelligence run computer. A little bit more sensitive than human eye. So these things are done by this thing. Suppose the doctor is new, it takes a lifetime to gain experience. So even for a newer doctor, you have an AI which has given you some clues. That clues help you in making some decisions of patient's treatment. Now, I need medical treatment. It's okay. I'm just done. I go home. I don't run in queues. Suppose I need some small tests like hemoglobin, sugar, kidney function. So I don't have to go to the lab and give a proper blood sample. There are biosensors, which will you give just a prick of blood and it will detect a lot of things. Like nowadays we have oximeter. You know, is something you put on your finger. It tells you about your pulse rate and it tells you about how much oxygen is there in your blood. Those are very common. If you ask any breathing problem patient, you go to any clinic to a physician, they will just apply that and that's a form of biosensor. Now you have more advanced biosensors. Without invading, maybe they will tell you your hemoglobin levels. Maybe they will tell you your sugar levels. So queues are your time in the queue is this thing. Your decision is made very fast. Then your treatment is started. You go to a kiosk. Just your prescription is already. You type in your ID. Your prescription your medicines come out. You go home. You understand? So one thing which is very, very much needed and is possible, already happening in the Western world at many places, is automation. Now we come to a more serious patient who is admitted. There, a lot of things are already being done by humanized robotic nurses. So they will just come, give you a prescription, go back, and they're very accurate because they run by barcodes, they run by location, so there is there less chances of error. So nurses and doctors are doing more advanced work. So their time is free for doing more thinking and more advanced work. So this is how the hospitals are going to be. I mean, I can go endlessly, but this is how the hospitals are going to be.
Okay, great. So, sir, my next question to you is that, sir, do you think the future of the consultancy will be basically depends on totally telemedicine?
It cannot be total because till now we have not. I mean, we haven't achieved that kind of level of advancements in AI and robotics that human hand palpation, human hand touching is not completely out of vogue. So if that day comes that some machine, if there is a scan of the whole body and it can give you some sort of a problem, that science has not yet achieved. So completely through telemedicine, what all we can do? We can do treatment and diagnosis and treatment of things which can be treated also telemedicine, right? For example, if you have a cough and cold, abdominal pain, etc., in which we can just tell you that, okay, you do the investigations and get back to me, and maybe on the phone I can write many things. So that is there. But if you have to go more advanced, no, I want to really feel that abdomen. Maybe in the abdomen there is something which is not, investigation is not telling. Those things we have not been able to surpass till now. But telemedicine is going to reduce the hospital visits. Like it is happening now in COVID times, people are not able to come to hospitals. Even we get so many video calls and audio calls because in Medanta Hospital we have a system of telemedicine for patients. So a lot of things we can actually tackle on phone and on video. So that is possible, but not to completion. Okay, like for example, for surgeries, telemedicine is going on for last you can say maybe around 50-60 years. At surgery through telemedicine. So surgery through telemedicine still not a success because there is a time gap between one step done at the site and the steps happening on the patient. So it's still we have not achieved that stage. But yes, the day will come. But till now, it can only reduce the number of visits to hospital, not completely. Or I will go another way. What is the situation now? I used to work in a hospital in a small town called Guntur in Andhra Pradesh. There the hospital is called Ramesh Hospital. It was very good in telepresence. So because it's a tier B town, so they used to cater to a lot of village and suburban areas, from where patient coming to hospital is very difficult. So what they made a very good system of tele-ECG. Like registered medical practitioner in a village will just take an ECG and send it to the doctor there. The hospital doctor will, through telepresence, will read the ECG, see the patient's symptoms, tell the RMP, give this medicine right now. because bringing the patient to hospital is losing time. Losing time is losing heart. Losing time is losing brain. So that kind of things, it is going to happen. It is going to increase day by day because the need is increasing. Yeah.
So, sir, moving to my next question, sir, what do you think if we talk about the efficiency of artificial intelligence or IoT or comparable to human?
Okay, that's more of a philosophical question. As of now, artificial intelligence is coming into picture now. Although there is a lot of debate on what is artificial intelligence. So generally, there is a human definition against computers. I'm sure you know more than me because you're in the computers. So to my understanding, artificial intelligence means something which has not yet been done. Means you give algorithms to computer, and then computer does something which is not directly in the algorithms. Means computer derives that conclusion. Once that conclusion is derived and it is found to be correct, it is no more called artificial intelligence. So let us not go into those details of artificial intelligence. All in all, artificial intelligence for us means that you come to a doctor and you give your symptoms, he or she examines, then he makes differential diagnosis. We call it differential diagnosis. Means we have few things in our mind that this could be this or that, and then we treat accordingly. Artificial intelligence potentially can do the same if you feed that data in that system. So there are so many web portals like WebMD and so many portals are there. They use some sort of artificial intelligence to decipher and or interpret the data, but they're not very accurate for lot of things. So the portals prevailing in the West, I'm forgetting the name, like they have been approved for 1200 diseases, but to an accuracy of 85%. So it is up to us to see whether it is 85% accurate or 15% inaccurate, right? So that means we have not reached the stage where we can take critical decision by telepresence using AI. But we are reaching there because for common diseases, AI is helping. Second thing is, you asked biosensors. Biosensor, what was the next thing? Biosensors.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
please,
same thing goes for biosensors, that biosensors have really become quite accurate nowadays. Simplest form of biosensor is actually an electronic blood pressure apparatus, right? You just push your button, you get a reading, and pulse oximeter. These are they've already achieved perfection. And then you go to the next level. There are so many wearable biosensor machines now. In Japan, in Europe, there is one very good machine from Switzerland. Then there is a good machine in US. I mean, one can Google and find out. There's so many machines. You just wear on your wrist or on your forearm or on your arm. It will give you a lot of readings like your blood pressure, your hemoglobin level, your saturation, your pulse rate, your fever, and so many things that will help you to make a decision. So that can be linked to AI. And if a patient wearing that biosensor tells his or her symptoms to the AI, and the AI along with the biosensor's reading can reach to a conclusion. But we have not reached there yet. And for now, even the most advanced robotic surgeries are not independent. So there is a robot called Da Vinci System. It's a US-based company, and for last 20 years, they have a monopoly of robotic surgeries. So till now, robotic surgery has not reached the stage that, okay, I just feed in the data that, okay, remove this patient's kidney. It will not that some robot will go and just go inside and remove the kidney command. No. It is still now is a master-slave system. Means I'm the master. I'm just sitting on a separate desk. I'm like using joysticks. The robotic arms are doing what I'm asking it to do very accurately, without hand shaking, without any tremors and all that. So this is what the best we have achieved so far. Yeah.
All right, sir. So, sir, I think this will be the most important question as per the current scenario, as we are more moving towards the automation. So, sir, do you think will automation affect the job of the people in healthcare sector?
Yes, obviously it is going to be. Let us think of the jobs right base level. Cleaner's job is very, very important. Unless your hospital is clean, it is not good. It's not a good hospital. So a robot can easily take up a cleaner's job, because in the West they're already doing it. Like in home, if you have any friends in the US, so in the US you don't get maids, you don't get servants to work for you. It is very expensive. So what you do, buy a cleaner robot. Okay, so that you just turn it on, and it will just keep on going front and back and clean your house. So if we can get that kind of robot in the healthcare, obviously it is going to take away the job of a cleaner person, because the robot will do it very efficiently and tirelessly 24/7 without any break, without no Sundays and all. And that's how it is going to be. There will be a one-time investment, but overall costs are going to go down. But it will happen only when the healthcare workers' cost is high. Like in the Western world, there is a minimum wage law. In developing countries, there it is not so. So in developing countries, it's going to take a longer time to automate the lower jobs. Then you come to higher jobs, but it is going to happen. But just imagine, it is not eating up a job. It is replacing one type of job to another type of job. Now, you don't need a person to clean the floor. Now you need a person to supervise whether it has cleaned properly, and keep changing the cartridges or whatever. So that we have to understand. Same come to the highest job, nursing and doctors. So nursing and doctors, now it is going to take up the job of a nurse, like taking a blood pressure, taking a pulse rate, taking a this thing. So it is going to take a low level jobs of the nurses. But then you are creating nurses who only know the low level job. Those jobs are going to go. It will be replaced by only a high level nurse who will do the more advanced things like interventions, or a supervisor to the nursing robot, whether the robot is doing the right thing or not, because it cannot be, I don't see that happening at least in 50 years, that everything is completely robotic, because human life is in question here. It is not about a car manufacturer gone wrong, then you can say sorry, but a human life gone wasted, it's not. But then when automation happens, then the question of cyber security will come. So then you will have a new job in cyber security, because you have to deal with a lot of encryption, passwords, because now it is going to be hackable. Like a human can be hacked into and be corrupted. So same way, obviously the something which is connected online can be hacked. Like connected cars. So connected cars or connected homes is a very good thing, but it can be hacked easily. Like you're talking about IoT, so Internet of Things. So there is something called as Internet of Medical Things also, IOMT. So IoT is giving a lot of convenience. Your car is connected, and you can just from a distance you can turn on your car, turn on your AC. You go to your home, and then you just do whatever like that. But just imagine, it can be hacked. You may not be able to enter your home. You may not be able to leave your home, or your car may be stolen if somebody hacks into that IoT. Because the car can be started from a distance, somebody else can start. You will say it is encrypted. Yes, it is encrypted, but still it is hackable. I'm not sure whether you have seen that movie called Ex Machina. I would highly recommend, because this talk, what we are discussing right now, Ex Machina will explain like what can happen, what can go wrong if AI takes over. It's a very beautiful movie, and it just tells about this only. You have an AI which is humanized, and you think that you are manipulating, but actually that AI is manipulating you, and you are connected through IoT. Your house is connected through IoT, and it just fools you and just locks you in and goes. So something like that. So IoT, AI, etc. is going to affect the jobs, but is going to replace it into different kind of jobs. And it is up to humans to realize that why are we doing automation? It is for humans' convenience, not to replace humans. So that something philosophical, and that the people will have to think about it.
So means we can conclude that the job will be totally moved towards the sector for more skilled people, rather those job will be for unskilled people.
Yes. So the less skilled people will have to be skilled in different ways, and there will be less number of people in one type of industry. They will be switched to some different type of industry. And there is always, see, whenever a new thing comes, it always the people become anxious that the jobs are going to be slashed. But actually, it always happens that jobs are going to be replaced by another type of jobs. Like in automobile industry, a lot of things are happening by robots. So obviously the human things is gone, but those things are being replaced by other things. So obviously you have to be more and more skilled to compete with the robot, and you have to have an upper edge of the robot. So unskilled jobs are possibly going to go sooner or later.
All right, sir. So my next question to you, sir, do you think that will it means healthcare sector, as far as I know, is more costlier?
It's not only about our country; it's everywhere. Just let us see in a different perspective. I'll give you, because I've worked in government sector for a long time, and then now working in private sector also for a long time. Just imagine you are getting a CT scan done. Okay, the CT scan machine comes for at least 5 crores. It needs at least 20 to 30 lakh rupees of per year maintenance. The robot which is there in the market, I told you, is the 15 crores. It asks about 50 lakhs per year of only maintenance, nothing else. In the government, what happens that these things are available, but it is the government fund. It is not taken from the patient. You understand? So because government doesn't run on profits or even at par, the government runs on service. Now, for a private, it runs on taxpayers' money, right? Now you come to private sector. Now, even if I have to do at par without any profit, just imagine how much investment is happening every day. So I'm just giving you 2 examples of one robot and one CT scan. Now you have 4 CT scans, you have 3 MRIs, you have PET CT scans, you have wards, you have so much of workforce running there, you have so much of electricity bill and everything, and so on and so forth. You have to pay so much of tax to the government, you have to have so many things. This is, even if you do at par, you will understand it is not expensive. In the West, it is much more, it is exponentially more expensive compared to our country. It is just that we don't have so much of investment in the healthcare from the government. So we don't have a lot of subsidies to the hospitals. Like, you don't get a subsidized electricity to a hospital. You don't get a subsidized machinery to the hospital. You are paying full. So if you're paying full, then obviously you have to get it back too. Now suppose a person who pays, let me talk from top to bottom. So suppose a person who can go to a let's say a restaurant and pay about 3,000 for a family of 4 for a lavish dinner, will always have a problem in paying 600 rupees for a doctor's fee, and they will always say that it is inconvenient and it's very expensive. Coming to a more poorer one, yes, it is expensive, and that is why there are schemes from the government side, public-private partnerships, trying to, because the government is not increasing their spend, the percentage of GDP which is spent in healthcare in India is one of the lowest in the whole world. Okay, so that and the government's model possibly is to rather than investing more, to have public-private partnerships. That is how they're trying to logistically improve the cost. If we improve the cost, then from the Europe you have to switch to Chinese goods, because in India we have not achieved that much level of finesse in making the high-end equipment. So it is expensive, no doubt, but it is a fraction of a cost as compared to the Western world. And because our government is not going to spend a lot of money to develop government infrastructure, they're going to go for private partnership, they're going to impose a lot of subsidized health in the private hospitals, and people are going to go for insurance. As you go for more and more insurance, then you self-insure yourself. So to bear those costs, because there is no other way out. I mean, things cannot be cheap because they come expensive.
All right, sir. So, sir, moving to my last question, I don't want to waste your much time.
Yeah.
So, sir,
I'm enjoying it.
What advice would you like?
What advice?
Would you like to give in this Corona time?
So I think it's very well known. Number one, Corona से डरना नहीं है. There is nothing to fear from Corona, because Corona is a hawa, the way SARS was some years back, the way H1N1 was there some years back. So don't frighten. Take appropriate precautions the way you would have taken in any upper respiratory infection, any viral, any flu. So it is a flu, but because it is very new and the type of virus, it is a little more aggressive. Still, it is not killing majority of people. So don't worry about it. Just take flu precautions, what has already been told time and again, that from maintain distance, 6 feet or more, wear mask when you're going to a crowded place, do hand hygiene as much as possible, whether you use hand rub, alcoholic hand rub, or whether you use soap and water, but please use before touching your wet surfaces like eyes, mouth, nose, and even genitals. Please do not wear mask. We do not wear mask while exercising, because it has the good quality mask will not let that much of air letting in when you are panting for breath, and it has caused some problems also. So the key is you exercise at home or in open space. Don't go to gym. Wearing mask and going to gym doesn't make sense. Don't do that. Lastly, there is no need to wear gloves. I see a lot of people wearing gloves, because in FM radios also people are telling wear gloves when you're going out. It is all wrong. I will tell you 2 reasons. Number one, it gives you a false sense of security. So whenever you are wearing gloves, you sweat under the gloves. In that sweat, the bacteria will proliferate at 1,000 times the rate compared to dry hands. So it is going to make your hands wet with sweat. It is going to cause more bacteria. You will always feel safe that, oh, I'm wearing gloves and so nothing can happen to me. It is wrong. And with gloves also, you will be touching here and there. So whatever you would have done with your dry hands, you are doing with gloved hands. So gloves don't make sense. Masks make sense because they are a barrier to droplets which are going to come to you, which are carrying Corona. So it is not only for Corona, but as such hygiene, and as such any flu, any communicable disease. Okay. And one good thing, one blessing in disguise of Corona is that people are becoming more conscious about hygiene in our country. Yeah.
And more becoming social.
Thank you. Pardon?
More becoming social.
Yeah. No, social. No, I would not say social. It is actually people are becoming now antisocial because if somebody is coming shaking hand, no shaking hand, please go away from me. So it is like that. So antisocial is the thing rather than social. So here again, the web presence is going to make things better. We are in Lucknow. Our families are in Delhi or in Moradabad. We are just talking through this only. Yeah.
So it was a really great discussion with you, and also a healthy discussion with you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us, and I have learned so much from you.
Thank you very much, Harsh, and all the best. You're doing a good job by making people aware. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.